What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Save Point Podcast, Episode 3. I am Alex, and happy Saturday. Hopefully you guys are having an amazing day, or at least the start of one, because this is still relatively early. But welcome to the show. Got a lot of stuff to talk about in this episode. We have a topic from one of you guys, and so let me just kind of go over, again, I'm going to probably do this for the first maybe the first 5 or 10 episodes of the show, just until everybody kind of gets, the feel of it. Remember, this show is very much based off of you guys. You can write in terms of Twitter, in terms of YouTube, in terms like comments, in terms of sending it through Patreon or YouTube memberships, topics and questions that you want me to read out and to respond to in this video. I'll have topics on certain weeks, and then other weeks it'll be very much just the you guys show. You know what I mean? To guarantee your topic or question read, you do have to be a supporter. That's to guarantee it. I will read things that are not from supporters or not from people who give money, which is more than cool. But we do have a topic today. The main topic of the video is from a tier person, someone who gave support monthly. So remember, you can always do that. Patreon or YouTube memberships, either or works for me. It's completely fine. We have a $2 tier and we have a $5 tier, and that guarantees your stuff is read. And then anything else, I will just kind of pick and choose, but keep them coming. You guys have been doing awesome. I love the different just things you guys are suggesting. There's some amazing topics. Some topics I want to make the own videos on, and I'll shout you guys out. I'll give you the full credit there, but there's some really good stuff you guys are giving me. So that's pretty much the opening. If you guys have a couple extra dollars a month you want to give, I'd love to receive it. Not to be that greedy, but no, you do get a lot of stuff back, exclusive videos, stuff like that, and you get obviously featured on the show as well. So a couple other things we'll get obviously into his topic. I've been playing I guess I want to do a real fast plug for Life is Strange Wavelengths. What a gosh darn good game. Okay, I love True Colors to death. I played Wavelengths. My Thursday was insanely busy from a channel perspective and even from a life perspective, but mainly a channel. And Life is Strange Wavelengths was a big reason why I played through it. Almost, I beat it, and then I played almost through it entirely again, making like opposite choices. And man, I loved it. I loved it so much. So I'm really happy about it. I'm really happy I bought the deluxe edition because I feel like I'm getting real value for my dollar there. So I just wanted to kind of throw that one in. I'm trying to think, is there anything else I want? I mean, we're gonna keep this going. I think in 2 weeks is obviously DC Phantom, so the video or the podcast will not be up in 2 weeks on the Saturday. It'll probably be the Friday. Oh, and let me say this real fast as well. So last I checked, Apple, the iTunes stuff still is not gone through, but like I said, last week, it's working on it, so like we will get there over time, I'm sure eventually. But remember, there is that site Podbean, and I guess again behind the scenes, Podbean is how pretty much everybody does it, and then Spotify, iTunes, like they take it from Podbean. So it will be up on iTunes eventually, and you can listen to me there. But if you want to listen to me now without, visually watching me, you can download the Podbean app. It's on anything, on any kind of phone device you have. You can download their app and find me there, Podcast Now. And all the episodes, 1 through 3 are up there. So that's kind of cool. All right. So I'm going to read some of your guys' stuff too. We'll kind of keep an eye on the time just to make sure I don't, go too far. And, we'll see how many of your guys' stuff I can throw in there. But again, this comes from the real JFK, again, patron supporter. So thank you, good sir. And he said, "Hey, Alex, I think a good idea for the Saturday podcast would be, why do open worlds feel so exhausting in modern gaming?" I really like that topic. I do. Now, it's not, I think, a fact for every single game. And I think it obviously, again, depends on what kind of person you are. There's what I've learned a lot by making videos and by having this channel is, and I've said this before, like all the different kinds of gamers, for lack of a better term, all the different kinds of gamers that there are out there. I mean, when you say, like, there's a people that play maybe like Madden every single year and COD, you remember there was always like that stereotype of a gamer, that they would buy every year's Madden and every year's COD, and that was it. That is like a stereotype, and that's not true for everybody, but that is 100, like that's accurate. Like that does happen. And I think what you'll find is there's people that literally will just play open world games, or, they'll never play a game like Kena, Bridge of Spirits, right? Like they'll never touch these games. And, I think that's disappointing to me, but I like understand it. I'm never going to get mad at them. I guess you could say like you're missing out, but at the same time, who are we to say, there's some people that just like their stuff. There was a long time where I would play NHL almost exclusively, like multiple years, probably like 2 or 3 years in a row, NHL was maybe the only game I played for like a 4 or 5 month stretch. I played nothing else. And sometimes I'd buy games in that stretch. I just never would play them. And so that's just who I was. And I never really felt like I was missing anything because I was just having fun. You know what I mean? I was doing my thing. I was running the Buffalo Sabres and doing better than the real life team. And that's normally how it works for the Buffalo Sabres in the NHL, whatever number you want to say. So, I get it. Now, again, though, to the question, it is becoming, I would say, increasingly more of a problem. You know what I mean? I think there are some games where I feel just completely like in a good way. I was gonna say like I feel completely lost in them. I don't know if saying that in the way that I said it is a great thing, but you play like The Witcher or like Mass Effect's tough because Mass Effect's not open world, but there's multiple worlds and it's a very long game, kind of similar to an open world game, or like Horizon, and like you just fall in love with it. Ghost of Tsushima, where it's like I want to do everything. But I would say even for like The Witcher, it does get overwhelming when there's just so much. And like when you go into a new area and I remember I was playing it one night and there were so in The Witcher, there's the map and there's all the icons. So you can toggle like which ones are on and off. I just leave them all on, which is probably a bad idea. But I remember like when I would like discover locations, there would be times where I would have over 130 question marks, the ones where it's like hidden crates or like treasure or monster dens and those kind of things. I have 130 of them. Like that gets flat out like, and Christy's there, my sister-in-law or Christy's sister Brandy's there. Like it just gets overwhelming when you look at that stuff and you say I can't do. And I tried, because I really did try to do like everything. I try to do everything in any open world game, and then some of them I just get so turned off or I'm just not invested enough in where it's like I'm out. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just probably just not gonna finish the game in general. But The Witcher, I had to kind of make like a middle ground where it was like, well, I want to do it, but I'm not doing 130 of these things. Like I'm not. I did most though. I did probably 70 or no. I mean that area, say there were like 150 question marks in all, I did about 100. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 110. So I did a fair amount. And but yet again, like I didn't necessarily like doing it. It was kind of just to like check things off a list, you know what I mean? Or not, when I go on the map, not see it so cluttered. It was almost like an OCD kind of thing, you know what I mean? So that, and that's just one example. I assume maybe, I don't know what he's, if he's hinting at a specific game. Assassin's Creed, could I make a leap and say maybe people would say Assassin's Creed for this, right? I mean, Assassin's Creed, now it's tougher. I'll be, this is a very transparent, I'm a transparent person. We're a transparent channel and podcast. And so no, for Assassin's Creed, I haven't played the last two. Christy has, so when you get married, sometimes you make trade-offs and sometimes your wife plays games that you used to play and you're okay with it. But no, I would watch. I've watched the last two Assassin's Creed games, quite a lot of it. But I just, I didn't get to actually physically play it. And there is a difference, I would say, between watching and playing it. It's just, a different experience altogether. But, even that, I mean, those games are just packed. And I would say that's more of an example where they're just not, at least for me, at least how I've kind of got, they're not like worth it. They're not worth the time to do these things. Ghost of Tsushima's on the other end where there's a lot of things to do, but there's not too much. It doesn't get in my opinion, it doesn't get overwhelming. They are similar. I think the biggest thing, one of the reasons why it is kind of overwhelming, I think, is like a two-parter. One, because there's just so many things and it just takes up so much time. And you go into a game and it may take you 30, 40 hours. And then if you do all of these extra stuff, it could double the time. And that's like, you think about that. And like, that's a lot of pressure. It just is. I mean, you could say like, well, you're playing a game. So like, anything that comes with it, like you're just complaining about nothing. No, but in reality, you're playing a 30-hour game and then it jumps to 60 hours if you do everything. That's a lot. Some people can't. And I only sympathize. That's the word. I've always sympathized with people that say that stuff because it's like, I mean, everybody goes through arcs in their life, right? But like if you're in school, especially like college, or you have like a part-time job or a full-time job, I mean, you do not have time if every game that comes out, and this is probably my strongest point, right? If you have something else to do in life, like a 40-hour work week with something, doesn't have to just be work. It could be family. Like if you're just in a relationship or married, you probably spend more time with a person than 20 years down the line. You know what I mean? Maybe you have a child, like all this stuff. You do not have time if there's 5 games in a month and all 5 are like 50-hour games. I mean, that's 2 months. It would take you like 2 months to beat one. And that's generally how it works. You know what I mean? So that's what I face. I've talked about a lot in terms of like how I play games. It wasn't actually ideal for even a channel like this, the way I played games back a couple of years ago. But January 2020, I made the jump, and I said my new. I mean, it's funny. It's actually kind of pathetic because maybe it should have been better. But my New Year's resolution for 2020 was beat games, and I have since January 2020. I've beaten probably 25 plus games, and that doesn't maybe sound like, I mean, maybe it does sound like a lot. I think it's a lot, but maybe it doesn't. Well, consider that before January 20, take the last 8 years before it, I probably beat like 10, maybe. So like, it's a huge improvement, and yet again, I don't necessarily think I could have done it in certain situations. I mean, I figured out my life's in a certain way where I could try. I still do have to put an effort to beat these games. It doesn't just, I don't just have time to sit down. I mean, there is some time, in the day, or specifically for me at night. But you do have to make a conscious decision to do it. But again, if you're working 2 jobs, right? If you're working like 60 hours a week, or again, depending on your situation, it's impossible. And then when you have a game that maybe you do just want to go through the story, and it's an even open world games. I mean, say like The Witcher, like it's a long game. Even if you just do the story, maybe some of the bigger side quests, it's still a huge game. So say you just want to do that, but then like they bombard you with 500 side missions. It's like you do feel overwhelmed. So, and I feel like that's become more. I guess the final thing I'll say before I take other questions or topics, the final thing I'll say is, I guess, the reasoning. Why do they do it? It's because they want you to spend more time in their game. That's it. It's really become more of every game, and every developer or publisher wants a monopoly on their product. It's actually kind of weird, right? Because they don't want you bouncing. So say like YouTube. YouTube wants you watching for as long as humanly possible. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter really what kinds of content you're watching. They'll figure it out, even if you're very like unpredictable and you're watching also. But like the idea is just stay on YouTube. These games, it's kind of like that, but also more like, we'll get our game, but don't play any other game. You know what I mean? Like, we may appreciate that other games exist, but I mean, we're designed, that's what live service is all about, right? Never play another game. Stay with us. We will have weekly updates or monthly updates, and you will stay with us for a year or two. And then, you have like Fortnite, Dead by Daylight. Like, there's some games that can pull it off and survive 5, 6, 7. I mean, they can survive a very long time, right? That's the idea. Don't play other games, which comes across kind of mean, or not. I know it's not mean. That seems like a pretty stupid phrase, right? It just comes across the wrong way to me. I like to experience all of these different games, and that's why it is hard when there's an open world game. For me, I don't know what to do. A lot of the open world games I've beaten have been older. Like I said, since my New Year's resolution, I've beaten Horizon. I beat Persona 5, which was a 94-hour game that took me to beat. I beat The Witcher 3, start to finish, which was like a 60-hour thing. So like, these are all games that were old. The dilemma is, I'm sure I have, but I haven't played many of these big open world games in the moment to kind of really test, like, okay, can Alex is beating games. Alex, when he buys a game day one, he really puts in, like, I've beaten Deathloop, I beat Kena, I beat Life is Strange. Every game I bought that was new in September, and you can keep going back, August, July, I've beaten it. I beat all of them. So, but like Horizon, when Forbidden West comes out, can I do it? I haven't really tested it because it's going to be a brand new game. Everybody's experiencing the side quest. Everybody's experiencing the main quest. And I'm going to want to do everything, but it's like, well, it's going to be 40, 50 hours, but you also have Sifu, you have Saints Row, which I'm kind of iffy on anyway, but but just generally, you have other games. There's other games that are going to be out. Can you do it? And so that's going to be, it's a real test. So I don't like the way it's going, to be honest, because it's actually just kind of ballooning and getting bigger. And it's actually what Sean Layden, right, Sony's president, or Sony's first-party studio president, what he said before he left, that, this is not a recipe for success. We need to get back to 8 to 12-hour games. The budgets are getting too big. Games are getting too long. People can't play them. Like, this is exactly what he said before he left, and it's coming true. I mean, all of this stuff is coming true. So great comment, great question. Now I want to look through. I'm going to answer specifically, maybe really quickly, the people that were talking on the video of last week. So the best way probably to get my attention is to comment on the episode. I did ask in a community post, and I know if you guys are watching visually, I'm not looking at you. I'm sorry, I'm looking at all this stuff. So I'm going to kind of just pick around. I may even say out loud. I'm going to do like rapid fire and things that I feel like I can answer somewhere else, I'll just say that. So let's look at KJ Games. Again, he commented on last week's video. What do you think Naughty Dog should do next that's big besides The Last of Us Remake and The Last of Us Factions? I really want them to make another IP that has the realistic cinematic feel that Uncharted and The Last of Us had. If they had a fantasy game, I low-key would be disappointed. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a fantasy game. It'd be very, very weird and different for them to do a fantasy game, which I actually kind of don't mind. At this point, well, I don't know. I do think Last of Us 3 will happen, but it's like, are you going to do a 7-year gap that they did, between 1 and 2? Yet again, that 7-year gap isn't exactly fair, right? Because they did, if you look at, I guess, like Neil Druckmann, right? Because he's kind of, Last of Us goes where he goes, I guess you could say. He did Uncharted after The Last of Us. So I think that slowed it down. If Amy Hennig stayed, or if Neil Druckmann just generally wasn't needed, would The Last of Us have been sooner? And so again, why am I saying all this? Well, to make the point that maybe The Last of Us 3 is only 3-4 years out, before you can have The Last of Us 3. So I'd imagine that's coming. And I honestly would think a new IP. I guess going back to Jak and Daxter would be kind of cool. I personally don't. I don't know. I want to say I don't want them touching Uncharted. I guess I don't want Neil Druckmann touching Uncharted. And I won't go too far into it because I've talked about it before. And maybe that comes across the wrong way. But I don't know. I loved 4 to death. I don't exactly trust him. I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion. If you don't agree, we've been through this before. If you don't agree, that's totally cool. But for me, I don't know if I trust where they would take the last, Uncharted. The way The Last of Us, there's no denying The Last of Us 2 is a phenomenal game in so many aspects. No, nobody's disagreeing. I've never disagreed. I don't think it deserved 500 Game of the Year awards or whatever the heck it got. I think a lot of the story decisions are up for debate. They're not, you don't just say, like, they're horrible. I think they're terrible, and that's it. Like, now you should believe me versus the people that say, you have to have reasons, but I think at the very least, like, the choices of Abby and Joel and all that stuff are questionable. Like, you can question them. And I think that the journalists and all this stuff in the world, and even some people, some diehard fans, really just took it as, no, it's Naughty Dog, it's PlayStation, it's The Last of Us, it's incredible. There's no room for just any kind of disagreements whatsoever, and I don't think that's healthy. And will that happen for 3? Of course it'll happen for 3. So that's also why I don't even know if there will be a 3, and I'm not even fully against them doing a 3. It's just I know that stuff would be coming with it. I think you would get, that wouldn't happen so much if you did Jak and Daxter next, or if you did a new IP. So that's that's something that I would think maybe they could do. Okay, so going to now the community tab. Okay, so I'm going to try to just read these from the first people that put it upwards and see, how far I can get in maybe 10 or so minutes. This comes from Twitchin' Jalapeno, great name. I know this is reaching 2030 territory, but which Marvel game should Insomniac make next? And this is excluding sequels to Spider-Man and Wolverine. I would personally love an Iron Man game with the same game engine as Spider-Man. So I would say Daredevil, but Daredevil seems to, at least in my opinion, I made a whole video on this. I think Daredevil is being worked on. I don't think it's a PlayStation exclusive, and I think it's just some random team out there that, maybe we know, maybe we don't know, that's working on it. So I guess, it's tough though, because so you have the Spider-Man team doing 2. You have the Miles team doing Wolverine. You do have that third team, which is doing that Marvel multiplayer game, which, there's been, I see a lot of people say, like, Fantastic Four or X-Men. I'm up for either of those. I think that would honestly be fine. I could see them just keep rolling. You know what I mean? Like, Spider-Man 2 team is going to be Spider-Man 3 team. Now, do you end after 3? Maybe. But, like, that's going to be that. Wolverine, I do think those will be more like one-offs, but what will be interesting is if Wolverine is so good, like, people will want a second game. But it's like, well, do you want, like, a Hulk game? Because, Hulk seems to be teased that he exists in this universe. So, like, could you do a Hulk game next? Probably. But, like, if we want a Wolverine 2, well, now there's, now it's like, well, can you make 4 teams in Insomniac do this stuff? So it gets really tough. It goes more to the problem that I love Insomniac. I've never had anything wrong with them. They're one of the most consistently just amazing developers the world has. Like, top, oh my God. I think they're more consistent than Naughty Dog by, like, a lot. So I do believe that. So they're insane. I've never, I don't mean this in a negative way, but, like, I feel like you can stretch somebody too thin. They could easily be stretched too thin. I also think I want games that aren't Marvel from them. They're such a talented team that has proven Ratchet and Clank. a Resistance, Sunset Overdrive. Like, they've proven they can just do anything, literally anything, and they can nail it. And again, like, I have a personal bias, like, in a good way, like a really good opinion of Resistance, so I'd like to see that back. So, you keep saying next Marvel game, and you don't let Insomniac do just random, and that's not going to please everybody, and I do get it. Like, Marvel games will outsell anything I just, like, a Hulk game is going to outsell Resistance 4. A Hulk game is going to outsell Sunset Overdrive or a new Ratchet and Clank. Like, it's going to happen. It's just going to happen. So I get financially why maybe they want to turn Insomniac just to a Marvel studio, which seems like they've done that. It is disappointing, though. It is. So but to answer your question, I know I went on a tangent, but I feel like that's why some people come here. Hulk. I think Hulk is probably the next one. Now, Fat Man Beyond, I do believe he actually is a supporter. He just supports me on Patreon. So you'll have to tell me if you're watching right now, your top favorite games, your top 10 favorite games of all time. So that's a hard one. And that's like literally its own topic. So what I'm going to do, well, number one, if you're a supporter, maybe I can do that as a topic for another week that we don't have people, that we don't have a topic from me. So if we don't have a topic from me, maybe I can do that as its own topic. Or I will write it down, and I will maybe do, as I'm thinking, this is off, off the topic here, but, I think for December, last year, towards like the end, when there's like nothing to talk about, I did a lot of like Game of the Year, my own Game of the Year awards, which I was super proud of, and I put a lot of work in. Christy put a lot of work in. Nobody watched. And it's the way YouTube works. I predicted it would happen. I just wanted to do something to, I guess, show that Christy is very talented and that I do know how to edit. If I'm given like, if I really, really sit down and do it, and, I really wanted to make it kind of like a special project, I really can, put some really nice, you guys can go watch. I mean, I've made a couple Game of the Year, in years past. I've done a couple videos, and there's some of my best editing work or production work, I think, ever. So, I think basically, instead of doing that, I can do that all in this podcast. So that's what I will do. So I'm not going to do like 8 videos. So instead, I want to do like fun, different stuff. So something like this, your top 10, favorite games. That's a great topic that, maybe is too weird or different for just months that there's like stuff going on, but like late December, early January, when there's nothing, I can do it. So I know that doesn't answer any question, but my point, and I will address this or emphasize this more in October, November, December, is late December, early January, I want to do some different kinds of stuff or some special stuff, but just maybe that would get more views. I mean, I'm not view hungry. We do fine, I'm not view hungry, but I don't like putting in massive amounts of work to get like 200-300 views, which was the view counts of some of the thing last time. Okay, John James McHugh, I believe that's how you say it. How about the cost of retro console games due to their rarity, and are they worth what they cost on online shopping sites? Only suggesting this due to spending $70 on the Jade Cocoon on the PS1 today. It's included shipping, but still. So I'm sure I butchered the title of the game. Yeah, so I guess the overall point of this, right, is this online, almost like scalper market. So it is interesting. Now, I don't really pay attention too much to, like, what is he? So I guess really it's like retro console, retro gaming stuff, right? I'm not big into that. It's probably because of, like, my upbringing, because really in my history of life, I didn't it's funny because of who I am and who I'm probably going to become in the next couple of years on YouTube. I cover games more than a lot of people, and I'm sure that'll continue. But, like, what's funny is I didn't really play games all that much. I've talked about it before. Like, I had the Game Boy, I had the Vita, I bought the Vita, but that was like later. So I had the Game Boy, I had PlayStation 1, 2, but like I didn't have it. My dad had it. PS1, 2, I bought 3, PS3 on my own. We had the Wii. Trying to think of but like that's it. So I never had like a Sega Genesis or an N64 or GameCube. My friends had them, so I would play them, but I never had them myself. So I was never really into it. But what I guess I will say, this may get too political, but everything is way more than it probably should be. I do think there is a lot of value in those retro consoles and games, and I think there's something special to them. I'm trying, even on a personal level, like I have maybe like 80, 90, 100 PS3 games, like disc, and some PS2 maybe like 20, 25. I really don't have a lot, but like, so I'm trying to keep them. You know what I mean? They're at my parents' house. I've moved them throughout several like attempts of like, I just take a stack when I go, they bring a stack when they come to visit. Like, so I'm just trying to preserve them. And it's only PS3 era or PS2 for some of them, right? So it's only like 10, 15 years old. Now we're talking about things that are 20, 25, 30 years old. Eventually, I mean, we're getting old and games are getting old. So, it's something like I get it. I understand it. I do think it's cool to possess them. And it's also cool. Let's not kid ourselves. It's cool when you have something retro. It could be a Yu-Gi-Oh card. I'm pointing because like mine are up there. Pokemon cards. Christy has cards from a long time that are worth several hundreds of dollars, And so like it's cool when you have those things and you go online, you look it up and you're like, Jesus Christ, this game is worth X amount of money. Like that's a cool thing. You know what I mean? We can't lie and say that's not cool. And that does lead to saying, well, let's test the market. Let's put it on the market and let's see if we can get somebody to do it. You know what I mean? And then to some extent, the market is literally what dictates the price, but at the same time, it also is, I think, like everything just costs more. These things probably are priced higher than they should be, but at the same time, like these are things that don't exist anymore. You know what I mean? Some consoles, actually most of these consoles we're talking about with these retro consoles, nobody's making them anymore. You know what I mean? So it's tough. Like I understand like trying to get these things when they're expensive. I mean, I was on a Funko. I'm looking up again. I was on like a Funko Pop, scavenger hunt to try and get Funko Pops from only, let me look at my watch, 8 years ago. And they're in like the hundreds of, like they're expensive. And it's like, why? Why is this little thing worth that? And it's, again, a lot of it's the market, but also the fact that some of them are just not made anymore, right? They're vaulted or whatever they call them. So it's pretty crazy. Okay, I'm going to read one more, and I'll still come back to this one, by the way, the community tab, to look at anybody else. I'll keep doing them. So I'm going to keep doing community tabs, keep leaving comments and all that stuff in the description. Leave the comments in the comment section. You can't write in the description, but I'm going to keep just kind of adding to it. If we can build up 20, 25, 30 things just to kind of have, right, that I can answer whenever I want, I think that would be kind of cool. So, okay, next one up is the Silent Speaker. And this is the last one. The Mass Effect Legendary Edition did really well and even surpassed EA's estimates. With that in mind, how possible would it be for a Dragon Age remaster/remake in the future? Great question, and I agree. I agree in the fact that it did do insane. I'm really happy that EA said it. I think it's actually very sad. Like, EA is very weird because I do generally right now like them because it really seems like they're kind of an underdog story, like coming back to life, and they're making like all the right decisions for something. Now, okay, like the sports stuff is still like, it's completely lost. You know what I mean? You just have to, for that to happen, you need something horrible to happen to those studios, like to just stop those games from happening. You need people to stop buying the Ultimate Team stuff. Like there's no stopping that. And, EA is to blame, but also, people need to stop buying microtransactions in those games. Like, if they just stopped, EA would stop. That's literally how it would work, but it's the cycle that they've kind of built. So I guess besides that, EA has made a lot of really nice public comments, behind-the-scenes stuff that we think they're doing with certain franchises. They've done a lot of great stuff. And yet, then they'd say something stupid like, well, we didn't really think people even wanted Mass Effect. We're doing a new Mass Effect game, and we did the remaster, but we still never really thought people wanted it. So, like, the sales of the Legendary Edition, oh my god, we didn't expect it to be this good. It's like, are you serious? Are you kidding me? So, I'm kind of saddened by that response. And I would say, if nothing else, actually, to kind of go negative on the whole picture of Future Dragon, like the only thing I could take negative on that comment is like maybe they weren't forward thinking in saying, well, let's try this with more than one property at the same time. So what I think happened now I still do 100%. I think we'll get Dragon Age 1 and 2. Probably, or I guess, probably all three of them. Well, Inquisition's not that old. Maybe just 1 and 2. I do think we'll get them. But the thing is, I thought, and I said this even in videos back a year or two ago, I thought that they would be doing these simultaneously. You have teams working on Mass Effect, you have teams working on Dragon Age, and you can do them like back-to-back years and test the waters for each. But like again, like they're doing a new Dragon Age and they're doing a new Mass Effect, so it doesn't really matter if you're testing the waters, but just for sales, just to kind of get it out there, see that people still like these older games. But what I kind of read into it now, and I could be wrong, but I kind of read into it like they didn't know if it would work for Mass Effect, and so they probably didn't even try it with anything else. Yet again, another thing you could say to reverse that is, well, they're doing the Dead Space remake. But I believe they said like the Dead Space remake was very much off of the Mass Effect reception, or like even when they announced it, how much people were excited about it. That's when they started the Dead Space stuff. So it's very weird how they make their decisions. I do think we'll get Dragon Age. I just feel like maybe it didn't start development as early as we thought it did. Like it probably just started this year versus like last year when it should have. But that's just my opinion. So thank you guys for watching. Really, really do appreciate it. A lot of fun. Again, keep the comments coming. This video, you can send me them on Patreon. Obviously, you have to be a supporter there in order to do that. But you could send me them there. Twitter. Easiest to do in the comments here. Easiest to do on the community tab when I post, the suggestion. Like I want your suggestions. Easiest to post it there, and easiest to send me, I guess, on Patreon. Okay, so again, I will read as many as I can that are non people that give money too, because it's a very still much a show for everybody. But if you give support monthly, right, you are guaranteed to be read. So we'll see what happens over the next week. Next week could very much just be a your topic again, okay? And if it's not, I'll try to think of something as well, and we'll go from there. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on the next episode.